Good afternoon, and welcome to Leaving Me, It Can't Be, Retention of Novice Special Education Teachers of Color. I am Dr. Cathy Key, Professor of Special Education in the Department of Educator Preparation at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Over the past 30 years, I have spent my career preparing culturally responsive educators. And most recently, I have begun to ask myself, while we have thought we have prepared individuals to be culturally responsive, what are their concerns? What are their challenges during their induction years? And more importantly, what are the factors that impact their decisions to leave the field of special education, move to multiple schools during their novice years, and or leave the field altogether? And when we take a look at the problems or factors that the majority of our special education teachers of color share with us, many of them are similar to those of other special education teachers. For example, our special education teachers share with us that there are a lack of resources. Many say that they have a lack of preparation for the field. They lack the administrative support and collaboration. They're overburdened with their caseload and paperwork, and that there are feelings of isolation because the special education teacher may be one of two or one only, and they don't feel a part of the fabric of the school. In addition to that, our special education teachers of color have problems that relate to their perception of competency, meaning, do others in their school, in their field, in their school district, believe that they are competent to do the job and fulfill the roles and responsibilities? Our SETs of color also experience discrimination, microaggressions daily. Additional roles are given to them, and they're not compensated for those additional roles. And the lack of representation of persons of color in the field of special education brings about that sense of not belonging. We know that EPPs have implemented several solutions to these four major problem areas. And they are primarily to grow their own programs, to give our special education teachers and those of color in particular opportunities for leadership. The schools themselves, programs themselves, have engaged the administrators and general and other special education teachers in culturally responsive training. Many of our schools and special ed programs have made attempts to reduce the caseloads and the overburden of paperwork, and others have attempted to engage in a holistic approach to preparing not only teachers, but administrators to be culturally responsive educators. We at North Carolina A&T State University have had the pleasure of being funded by OSEP for the past 25 years. Our current grant, Project CREED, is truly our legacy because we have listened to the voices of our previous scholars, our alums, and we have added to our framework all of the areas in which they have asked us to strengthen. And so Project CREED prepares individuals from underrepresented groups to work with individuals in general and special education. So we are dually preparing and licensing individuals in elementary education, K-6, special education general curriculum, and special education adaptive curriculum, K-12. We think we've done an awesome job, but still the question remains, what are those factors that impact our SETOCs to leave, move, or stay in the field? And to what extent can the educational preparation program foster support and retain our SETOCs during their induction years? And so we decided that we would develop a survey. The survey was quite extensive. As you can see, 104 questions divided into several categories: demographics of our participants, their school, their teacher workforce at their school, the student body demographics, the leadership team demographics, the special education team demographics, and the general education team demographics. We had questions related to teacher burnout factors, racial battle fatigue, mentorship, leavers, movers, and stayers, um, their level of cultural competence, um, their engagement in professional development throughout the induction years. And the last two areas, which we will focus on today, is their EPP preparation and induction and mentoring support. We have only a short time to be with you today, so we want to get right down to it. Who were the respondents? The respondents of the pre-impact survey were 17 graduates. They ranged in years of experience from 8 years to less than 1 year. 11 were ages 25 to 29, and 6 ages 20 to 24. Racial identity, 13 identified themselves as African American, 1 biracial, 1 identified themselves as Hispanic or Latino, and Black and African American, and 1 identified themselves as white. All were female except for 1 Caucasian male. So the most important part about this presentation is who are the leavers, the movers, and the stayers. And as you look at the numbers here, it's almost equal to the number who are going to leave. 8 out of the 17 are leaving the field, 7 are going to stay, and 11.8% are individuals who moved to different schools within the same school district as a special education teacher. And so when we look at those two groups that are very closely related, those who are employed as special education teachers who plan to move to a different school, who plan to change positions in the next several years, and those who have left the field, who are no longer employed in special education, a red flag is raised for me. Why is that red flag raised? Because we have prepared them to be agents of change, change makers, teacher leaders, and they are going to leave us. What are those factors that impact why they're going to leave and or move to another school setting? Again, it is reflected in the previous slide. Working caseload was just too stressful. School leadership lacked support, lack of compensation monetarily. The school culture, including the racial climate, was a factor. And then personal and family obligations. played a very important role. When we asked what were those factors and reasons why they were staying and how they were ranked, they chose other. Other was the top choice with additional explanations. And those additional explanations were centered around the fact that they had to complete their federal service obligation requirement. For every academic year that they were funded through the grant, they must give back 2 years or be the teacher, special education teacher of record for 2 years for every year that they were funded. But they also cited that they had opportunities for continued education. And so that lent itself to them staying, i.e., the school district may have provided incentives for them to pursue an additional degree. Leadership opportunities occurred. They had an opportunity to experience more than one type of special education setting, and or they had a small caseload. So that environment um, was a good fit. And the school climate, the school culture, the racial climate um, was positive. And then last, the university alma mater was very supportive of them during the induction years. So when we asked them what were those important factors for retention, the number one factor was being in a positive school culture and having truly defined school policies. A second rated top factor was administrative support, strong leadership, followed by meaningful professional development and training, that special education teachers were included. They were not an afterthought for not only the professional development provided to the general educators, but there was also professional development earmarked specifically for special education teachers. Another high ranking area, actually uh, equally as important, was the compensation and loan forgiveness and clearly defined roles and responsibilities of their job. Many of them stated that their jobs were complicated, complex, but they needed to know exactly what was expected of them. And then mentorships and relationships with the staff were extremely important or very important. Leadership opportunities, an opportunity for them to be respected and their decisions um, and opportunities for input was important to them. District level support and policies were last, but they were important. And so when we take a look at the 5 challenges that are faced by our special education teachers of color, they are loud and clear that they experience an antagonistic type work culture, leaving them feeling unwelcome, and many of them invisible at their school siting. They felt under devalued. Um, they were not given a fair share of responsibility, nor were they compensated. They were deprived of agency and autonomy in their schools. And so they felt that this was because of an inability to tailor their teaching to the population that they served. 98% of these 17 respondents were in Title I schools. These respondents have been prepared to be culturally responsive educators, and they often stated and said to their administration and or to their EC support persons, we need culturally responsive materials. I want to take this scripted lesson and deliver it with fidelity, but I also want to add culturally responsive materials and implement culturally responsive strategies. And they felt that they were deprived of being able to do that. They also felt that they were navigating unfavorable work conditions and lacked the support to grow as a professional. And they, as special education teachers of color, bear the high cost of being a teacher of color, which took a toll on them financially, emotionally, socially, and psychologically. So when we ask them about their education preparation program and what we can do, you don't have this slide, but all 17, 100% of them said, we have been prepared to be culturally responsive educators hands down. We know the names, we know the faces, we know the communities, and we know the stories of the families that we serve. That warmed my heart. But we asked them, you've left us now, and half of you are saying you are going to leave the field after your service obligation has been completed for your federal government requirement. What can we do as an educator preparation program to strengthen, to fortify your retention in the field? And so they said, EPPs need to develop an induction support program for their alums. EPP programs need to develop a mentoring support program for their alums. EPPs should also provide ongoing professional development during those induction years, whether they are virtual or in person, hybrid, whatever, continue to offer ongoing professional development opportunities. They also felt that their EPP should conduct an on-site visit of their graduates during the 4 induction years and hold annual focus group meetings and gather their feedback on programmatic content and delivery changes. They also said, we would love to come back and speak in classes, be guest lecturers, host workshops for those novice pre-service teachers, those who are going to be future teachers. They could benefit from hearing from us the challenges that we face and the resolutions to the issues. And so I must say that these 5 suggestions were very well taken. I asked the federal government if we could begin to do some of these things with our dollars during those induction years. You know, every year in the RFP, it asks, how are you going to maintain contact? What types of activities will you engage in with your alums? This year's RFP was very intentional about that. And we are so happy because we have begun to do at least 3 out of those 5. And I want to say we've done all 5 of those. But in addition to the suggestions for our educator preparation programs, factors for our schools and our school districts, they have said loud and clear, if you want us to remain, you need to listen to us. You need to respect us. But most importantly, you need to culturally affirm us as teachers of color and value our feedback and believe us when we say what we say. In other words, they want our schools to be color gray. They want our schools to become familiar with the unfamiliar. They want our schools to empower and invest in them by providing multiple pathways for them to grow professionally. They want school leaders to build a school-wide family atmosphere and setting so that all are welcome, not just the dominant culture of teachers, teachers of color, students of color, and families from the diverse communities served. Um, they believe that if our school districts prioritize the to retain um, teachers of color, that we could build stronger cohorts. Overwhelmingly, these 17 alums said that we can do a better job at retaining teachers, but we need to have a strategic plan. It's not just about recruitment. It is truly about the retention of teachers of color. And that is even more important today because when we examine the incoming special education workforce, and Project Free is an undergraduate federally funded grant, we have been fortunate at A&T. For the past 25 years, we've had 6 OSEP grants that have funded our undergraduate program, and then one for our MAT special ed program. But when you look at the numbers in front of you today, at the baccalaureate degree, only 317 African Americans receive a BA/BS degree in the field of special education. 785 of our Latino sisters and brothers receive degrees, but 7,146 of our white Caucasian brothers and sisters receive degrees. And as you look at those percentages, it tells us that we have a lot of work to do. Recruitment is one aspect of the pipeline, but retention is truly the hallmark of success. Leaving me, it can't be. What I'm telling you, it will be. So we have to make a difference. We have to make a change in our retention policies, both at the school level, school district, and our educator preparation programs must renew, must repurpose, must reimagine their role during the induction years for our SETs of color. Thank you.